Hi, how you doing? Welcome to the Unlock live streaming event. Hopefully you've got yourself a drink and you're ready for the night, got some nibbles. Come on in and enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Unlocked first ever live streaming show. Thank you for joining us and supporting us and the team that have made it possible tonight. I'm your host, Jane Liscombe, and I'm usually behind the camera. I'm a producer and I help other creators realize their ideas. But the Unlocked is a start of a brand new creator journey for me as a writer and now a host. I have never done this before, so bear with me. What could possibly go wrong? A few months ago, I started the collaboration of the blog with the photographer Mauro Palmieri, whose passion is capturing the spirit of a person through his lens. I love to do it through conversation and written word, and I've reached out to creators that I know to ask them to share their creator journeys with us in the hope of unlocking insights and their learnings, to share with creators like you to inspire you on your creative path. Katie Graham, the designer and homewares queen and founder of the Love Tree, was the first person that I unlocked. In 6 months, Katie renovated this amazing space on Chapel Street. She started 2 new businesses, the Kookaburra Canteen and a stylish co-working space called She Co-Works. Check it out, it's amazing. But she has been a huge supporter of the Unlocked and has offered us the Love Tree space today as a backdrop for our stylish studio. So thank you, Katie. It's an amazing space. But I just wanted to reflect on how hard it is to summarize the times we find ourselves in. I did contemplate, do we carry on with the show in light of everything that's happened? But in times of crisis, I felt that creativity in all its forms was really crucial to help you process emotions, to find a way through, and to hopefully create solutions for a brighter tomorrow. So, I'm getting emotional. The Unlocked wants to showcase creators from all backgrounds, ethnicities, and industries. So, what we do is we take a creator, they unlock a new creator that has inspired them, it creates a chainmail effect, and it takes me on an organic journey. And tonight, the trio of talent that we have in store for you is a real treat. So, Frank Camorra, the highly regarded chef and restaurateur of the Movida Group, unlocked for us Jo Barrett. Here's what Frank had to say about Jo.
There's a young chef, Jo Barrett, who I've had the opportunity to work with when we had the bakery, and I think eating the food recently at Oak Ridge Estate, amazing food. But the thing I really like about it is how, again, authentic she is about, and how honest she is about the love of her food and how committed she is to it.
Jo Barrett is one of Australia's top chefs, co-executive chef at Oak Ridge Winery in the Yarra Valley, where she's earned herself a Best Dessert Award along with Chef of the Year in 2018 for women in the food service. The Melbourne Food and Wine Festival awarded her a Trailblazer accolade, and as if that's not enough, she's a gold medalist who represented Australia in the World Championships of Pastry, Chocolate and Gelato in Milan. Jo has a great story about this adventure that she will share with you later. Jo has unlocked for us the force of nature that is the dynamo and multidisciplinary artist Claudia Sangiori Dalimore. I've practiced that a lot. Claudia is a dancer, a dance teacher, a photographer, and an award-winning filmmaker. Her music videos feature some of Australia's top artists. She's ARIA nominated, and her latest film, Her Sound, Her Story, has had high acclaims. Here's a clip of Claudia's latest film.
I think we do have to have the conversations, but I'm just not quite sure we're having the right conversation.
I am a woman and I am making music, and you think it should just be as simple as that.
Positions of power need to be ceded to the people that they directly affect.
Artists often speak what needs to be spoken in the world, and they do it in a way that can be glorious, frightening and important.
It's a good time to be a woman in the Australian music industry, I reckon. It's a good time to be a woman, full stop.
I'm a very busy woman with a lot on my plate.
And our final guest is singer-songwriter. I saw her on Instagram singing a song about the house that she'd grown up in and how she was leaving it, and it made me cry. So Bronte Morrison was on my radar. She was heading to Bluesfest for a busking competition in the hope of winning a slot in the main festival when COVID-19 hit. But in true creator spirit, Bronte channeled her emotions into a song about isolation. And to kickstart the live Unlock show tonight, we've got Bronte's debut online performance of her song, Sleep Don't Come So Easy. Take it away, Bronte.
Feels like a long, cold, lonely winter. Now the rains have arrived. Thoughtless independence is a memory I've realized. And I do miss my friends, my jobs and family. But I know the greatest good right now is social sobriety. And as I watch the world outside with the heating firmly on, I think of all the things we did and how I wish they'd carry on. I'm not sure of anything, but as time just grows along, I'm not sure that normal is where we all belong. Sleep don't come so easy when you know tomorrow will bring. And I will lay more easily when tomorrow's unpredictable again. For if anything's for certain, it's that this too shall soon pass. So let's lay our heads low and let it pass. But as the winter comes along the coast and the waves they do crash in, the children go outside again, they run and jump and sing. For all of this is over, the timing does one thing. And now the new normal is to play and dance and see beauty that's waiting. Sleep just comes so easy when you know what tomorrow will bring. And I now lay more easily, cause tomorrow's unpredictable again. For if anything's for certain, it's that this too shall soon pass. Now all of this is a memory in the past.
Thank you, Bronte. Thank you. I'm going to ask you a quick question while you're there.
Yes.
Just because I feel like throwing it in the spin. How long did that song take to write?
That song was a very quick one. I think a lot of the creative process when you're writing something is inspiration about immediate events. And when you're trying to write something about a broad platform or a broad scenario, it can be quite a long process because you're trying to hone in on a specific element. But I think because isolation was individually unifying, everyone was on their own, but it's something that's quite easy to talk about. And so it was a really quick, like it was done in an hour.
An hour?
Because it was like concept, communication, and it's just done.
Wow. Well, come and join us and we can talk more about the creative process. Thank you, Bronte. I would love to say that I want to delve in. What I do with the blog is I start by asking everybody a question about what does creator and the term creator mean to you? And I sort of delve into the person and then we go on the journey and through their fears and growth and what does success like. So I'm going to take that structure tonight and we're going to start by asking Jo and the ladies, the wonderful ladies, to just give us a when I say the word creator to you, what does that mean to you? How do you describe a creator?
I actually have thought about that quite a bit because I wasn't too sure what a creator was, but I think it's everyone can learn a skill and be creative, and a creator is someone who can kind of go that next little bit and take what they've learnt and their skills and be able to express them just that little bit more.
Fantastic. And Claudia, what comes to mind with you with a creator?
When you say that word, I just think of mother.
Mother.
My mothers, and I think that's to do with the birthing process, you know, which is a lot. It's what happens when an idea comes to life, to fruition, you know.
Yeah, you catch that new baby.
Yes.
And what about you, Bronte?
I think my biggest thing on being a creator in any capacity is your ability to communicate a point, whether that be through, you know, a thing that you've drawn, or just something that you're trying to explain, or, you know, a story that you're trying to tell in one way or another, but you are able to create something that is able to make other people feel. And I think for me that's what the creator element really is about.
You definitely made me feel. I mean, the song that you sing, which we will hear a bit later, about the house that you grew up in and that you were leaving, I mean, it's such a universal moment that we probably all left, and I just felt the raw emotion. So I congratulate you on succeeding in your mission as a creator, of feeling emotions.
Thank you.
But I'd love to also get a bit of a sense of you guys as people. Like, who is Jo Barrett? I mean, the person behind this accoladed chef and gold medalist. How would you describe yourself, or how would your friends describe you?
Ooh, pretty...
Claudia's giggling.
Not sure. It's funny, I don't really see myself as like excessively creative. I think I'm pretty meticulous and kind of structured. Like, cooking is quite technical, so sometimes I feel, you know, being grouped into a creative group, I'm a bit the imposter, just because what I do is really technical. The way I move my body is really rigid, you know, cooking. And it's probably only recently, in the last couple of years of cooking, that I've seen, I guess, the creative side of it. Yeah, I'm not sure what my friends would say.
Claudia, what would you know? You two know each other well. You've known each other since Jo was 19.
Yeah.
So
I was saying to you, we have the mutual admiration club from afar, you know, going on. I think I see Jo like once or twice a year. But if I'm describing her, she's just like a total innovator, and the passion that she has, I don't think it's food. I feel like it's for flavor and texture and shape, and which is much the way any artist would have for their medium. It's the same. That's why I feel like the word creator applies to you, because of your connection and obsession with all the elements that are involved in being a chef, which is not just as simple as, you know, turning on flame and putting food in a pan.
Well, when you see some of the things you've created later for the World Cup, the championships, we'll see the artistry coming through. So I figured with this mutual admiration club, maybe you should describe Claudia.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's going to work way better.
It's funny because Claudia says that she's really loud, and you definitely are, and bossy, but at the same time really caring nature for people, especially through the dance classes that I've done and the time that I've spent with her, just with you know, caring for people and caring for being able to tap into them. It's like what you do with your music and production, especially with the film, is the ability to empathise and tap into people and then express it, or change what you do to help them to be able to express it, if that makes sense.
I did see, actually, when I was researching you, Claudia, that you had created for Thelma Plum this amazing team of female crew, which is no easy feat, right? Having worked in the film industry for a long time, it's hard to get female gaffers and all those technicians, but to create that safe space for her as an artist to feel that she could explore her art in a really safe space. I mean, I think that goes to speak to your trait of supporting that human spirit. So it's very. And now Bronte, how would you? And the other thing, I like to play the game. If you had one word to just sort of be held up as at your funeral or on your gravestone, what would that word be for you, Bronte?
I really tried to answer this question before in my head. I think, in the best way possible, I'm a bit of a dreamer, and I don't always feel like I have to find practicality in ambition. It can be sort of blind ambition without a direct road. And I think that's probably across all aspects and sometimes they're ridiculous and you don't achieve half the stuff you set out to, but it's just trying to create something that isn't based on expectation. You can just sort of go for something.
And when was the first time, so we're going to sort of delve into when the first point that you all realised that you had a creative passion or a skill, because often we don't always have the skill before the passion, right? But what was the first point for you, Bronte, where you realised you wanted to sing and that you wanted to write songs?
I think it's a two-tiered thing for me, because I always wanted to be a singer and that was always what I wanted to do, but I actually think it's not really been until the last few months even that I realised how important the communication aspect of my particular art form. I didn't really realise how enormous that involvement was for me, and it's almost like COVID has put that in, so it was a recent thing for me realising the exact way, but I've sort of never really wanted to do anything else. But I think when you find that actual road, it's a whole different thing, but it's been a recent sort of realisation for me.
Although you did sing and write your first song at 13 and performed it in front of the whole school about the headmistress's husband had died, is that right?
Yes, I did do that.
Amazing. So you have been singer-songwriter and performer since the age of 13, but it's taken you to now 23, was it?
Yeah,
to sort of
to
claim
realise,
that.
yeah.
Amazing. And what about you guys? When did you first know that you were wanting to go down the food chefing route?
Oh, I definitely always knew I wanted to be a chef, or involved with food and how it works with nature, because we spent heaps of time in the veggie patch and cooking. We weren't like a particularly foodie family. My grandmother was a chef, but it was never like a family that experimented a lot, but we did love cooking, and I liked all aspects of the hospitality industry, so I knew I always wanted to be a chef. And then I guess when it started getting creative was, I think every person kind of goes through a moment of like, what is my style?
Right.
And it's when you have kind of got your skills together and you want to express yourself a little bit, and it was when I guess started to get a bit more of a style, or not even a style, like a more definition of what I wanted to do and more confidence that this is just me now. So that just kind of kicked off, I guess.
Yeah. And Claudia, what about yourself? When was the creative? I mean, we spoke about this and you said you got asked. Tell me that story about when you got asked at 4.
Oh, I'd say 4. It could be wrong, the age, but I'm going to say it's 4. My mum was a life model, and so I went to all of the classes. I think 2 stories from that. One she reminded me of the other day. One is when I was sitting there drawing, my mum, the model, and a woman came to me and said, "Oh, isn't that nice? When you're older, do you want to be an artist?" And I just looked up at her and went, "I already am one." With this head of hair and big rough voice. And then I think the creative streak, which is maybe knew that I was going to make things and have opinions. I was probably 4 as well, when apparently I screamed the house down in a class, like a full public class, where people had paid to come and draw Mum, because I couldn't get the leg right, and she actually had to leave. So I feel like that level of perfectionism coming in so young,
that frustration at not getting it perfectly right.
That high level of perfection from such a young age definitely tells you about, what's kind of where your vision is going to be set, or my cuteness to detail.
Yeah.
But when did you take the leap of faith, Jo, to sort of go, okay, this is definitely a career now, I'm going to do this? What was your first step?
I was cooking a lot at home, and then I decided, probably when I was in high school, that I definitely want to do cooking. I want to do an apprenticeship, and in about year 10 I asked my parents if I could drop out of school, and at the same time our school had a work experience program, and they were like, go do your work experience in the kitchen and just see if that's actually what you want to do, because people tell you you're going to stand up all day and you're going to be sore and it's long hours, but I had that aspect, but my family and everyone was quite encouraging, and I went and did my work experience for 2 weeks, and I said, this is me, I want to do this, and they said, we'll take you on, but you have to finish high school. So I had lined up my apprenticeship and then finished high school, and I loved school. I loved cooking. We did drama. Like I actually really enjoyed. Was my best part of school were the last 2 years. So I'm glad I stayed. And then I finished high school and a week later started my apprenticeship, and I've been cooking every day since.
Wow. Wow.
Every day.
Well, you're going on a different journey now. I'm loving that. We're going to go on a new tangent and we'll explain that in a bit. But Claudia and Bronte, what about you guys? What was your first big leap of faith?
Oh, leap of faith. I have no idea, actually. I'm stunted on that.
You're stunted. What was the first film you made?
Oh, probably something in high school. A horror film about a girl who was dead and didn't know that she was dead and walked around all day being invisible. My first, I think making her sound her story is a huge leap of faith. Being the feature documentary that you spoke about earlier, I don't think I viewed it like that, but it was a leap. It was a leap in general, you know, into the unknown, because it was, I worked with Michelle closely to produce it and obviously film all the content, but you know, all the post-production and the rest of it was heavily just on my shoulders, totally unfunded. So,
and how long did that take?
That project had a 5-year span, and I was saying this to you the other day, I think, you know, if you were to condense the editing time, it might be 3 to 5 months, a little bit off and on, but because I cried and resisted the whole process, you know, I dragged that on for a good 14 months.
Right.
Wanting to put it down a lot and forcing myself not to.
Yeah. And we've talked about this, you know, in terms of the key steps to taking an idea and making it happen. It's never fluid, it's never easy, it's always going to have kinks and bumps in the road. So what have been your biggest failures or your biggest learnings from those bumps in the roads when things have gone awfully wrong? You know, you've started something and you're sure it's going to work and then it goes terribly wrong. Is there anything? Jo's never failed it. I can see it on I've never done this. What are you
too meticulous with measurements to fail.
No, I think it is scary, definitely, having a go. The project I'm working on currently.
So this is something that's come out of COVID?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about that one?
Well, there's been a few ideas that have started because of COVID and things that I haven't had time to work on, but this has allowed me to have a bit more time. And things that you have an idea and you work on it for maybe a year or two and you think it gets to a point it gets too hard and then you're not sure what to do. And I guess, yeah, everyone thinks it's a great idea and you get the flow going and then you get to the nitty-gritty of actually getting it done. And usually creative people, sometimes, like you were saying, being a dreamer, when it actually comes to pushing it out, it gets really difficult. And then I think that's where, if you invest money as well, you really have to commit and push through that to get the success. I think if it was always easy, then like everyone would always be doing it, right? I think part of being creative is if you really believe in it, then you'll push through.
Yeah.
So I've written a magazine with a few friends of mine, and yeah, I guess yesterday I had a moment like that of editing, and I was like, I'm not a writer, like this is too hard, I just don't want to do this anymore. And you know, you want to give up, but you're kind of too committed. So.
We actually got sent some very, very exclusive clips of your Have a Go magazine. Have you got one here? You've got your actual magazine here. Show us, and then we can show you some actual clips of. So this, I mean, I love the essence of Have a Go. Can you talk to us about where this idea came from? Because we talked about how you were meant to be doing a food cookbook because the restaurant's shut. What do you do when you've got no one to cook for? You make a cookbook, and you felt like it was a bit of a forced endeavour, that it's sort of what you should do. And then you went on this more organic journey. So can you talk to us about the journey, and then we can show some beautiful clips of the photos.
I guess I had been working on a book for a while, just writing my recipes down, and then Jana Longhorst, who's a beautiful photographer and a great friend of mine, we had spoken about doing a book, and we'd spoken for a while, and then it just hadn't kind of happened because you get busy, and then COVID hit and the restaurant shut, and we were like, great, let's use this as an opportunity to go and shoot. And then I would go to write down the list of photos and the dishes that we'd have to cook, and I couldn't do it. Like, it was just so forced and it just wasn't coming naturally. It was just quite clunky. And then Jana just said, let's do a magazine. And then from that, a week later, we had shot the recipe. And I really like sharing information and making it very simple. So I guess Have a Go is about breaking down one recipe, and it's the first look into your further reading, so to give you confidence to keep going.
So it's that first step before you go on to maybe master something. Or so your first one I loved was cheese making.
Yeah, this one's feta. So
feta.
I guess it's the idea of
so good.
Creative. So if you got the skill, then you might go and use feta in a salad or in marinating it, or doing whatever you can do with feta. It's just the skill, the base level skill of making the product, and then you get to go and do whatever you want, or you might find one part fascinating, so then you'd go and research it more.
Yeah, great. So it's a sort of the leap point to get you in, your juices flowing creatively. But we got some photos there. I've thrown a curveball in the mix because I've mixed up the order here. So how are we doing, Jason, our live streaming expert? We got the photos?
We've already put them through.
Fabulous, fabulous. Everybody's seen the photos. We've been talking over them. But what I loved about those photos when you sent them through, they're very exclusive photos, everyone, because this magazine hasn't been launched yet, right?
Not yet. Hoping in the next week or two.
Next week or two. So you can all look. Where will we find Have a Go?
So we've got a website, Have a Go series, and then Instagram, and then wholesale.
Fantastic.
Well.
I just loved that the one where you've got the dripping thing, and then I love the fact that there was I had to look twice because it was quite late last night, and I was like, there's a brick. There's a brick in it.
That brick is actually on the freeway, on the Eastern Freeway. There's that big tower, the chimney. It's from there.
You've been taking. Jo has been deconstructing chimneys on freeways to make a brick.
And originally, cheese making is meant to be very sterile and clean, and we had a bottle with water because that's a practical way to do it. And then we were in the studio and looked down, and there was a brick as a doorstop, and we were just like, oh, put that in. And
you see, the inventor, the true creator. I think that is definitely the essence of Jo. You never quite know what you're going to get. I was like, cows, brick.
Yeah,
it's great. But thank you for that. I guess so. Other wrong failures, moments where have you had a major fail in a concert or a live gig, Bronte, where you've just gone, this is something I need to learn from?
Everyone has hilarious performance stories where something horrible happened, and then, anyway, but that sort of obviously occurs. But I think a big one is I never thought that people were interested in my songs, because obviously sort of 18 to 21, 22, it's really normal to be going out and you'll play in pubs and bars and restaurants, and people will be interacting with you when you're singing covers and songs that they know and that sort of thing. But then you'd start playing original, and the silence that you get from the audience, I always perceived as disconnect. I always felt like people were tuning out. And I think in that pub scene where everyone's there to drink or whatever else, but I kind of took that on as feeling like my originals weren't to be shared at that platform, and I kind of talked myself into that for a really long time. And I really regret not realizing earlier that it's not necessarily, they just don't know it, and you've got to give people space to listen, and you've got to allow people to take on that information or that story or whatever else. But I just wish I'd trusted myself more, that the friends and the family and the originals gigs I played, that people are going to like it just as much, but I was just so scared of that I felt like I couldn't share honestly for a really long time.
And something's changed now, hasn't it, in COVID?
Big time.
So now we're going to reveal what Bronte's been up to in COVID. Again, another creative moment where you got, the busking competition that you're about to go on to Blues Fest to get yourself a gig at one of the biggest, blues festivals in the world. And it got shut down. So what did Bronte do? Bronte took to the steps of her brand new house with her family. She'd been living in a tent in the garden. Took to the steps and decided to put on concerts for her community, and they would come and walk their dogs and whatnot. And we're going to show you now just a little clip of what Bronte got up to during COVID.
This is a song that I wrote about the house that we moved out of before we moved here. You see, everything about that house is sacred. A memory etched so deep within. So pardon me for fighting, I wanna keep
memories entirely of the house where we all used to live. You see my dad, he don't live there anymore, and the stress that it's caused has divided us to the core. So pardon me for saying that I'd rather not be staying in the house where we all used to live. It's not leaving green.
That was Bronte's COVID moment where you could. So what happened when you took to the steps? You know, talk us through that process of what happened for you.
I think I sort of psyched myself up that I was sort of ready to, I guess what you were talking about before about taking that first leap. I was like, yep, cool, I'm ready to start sharing my original music, and was really ready to do that. And then obviously everything hit, but my mental state was still just as ambitious. And so with having all my gigs cancelled and stuff, we didn't know any of the new neighbours. I was meant to move in temporarily with my mum, but it ended up being a 3-month solution. But I just sent little letters to the immediate houses around. It was when lockdown was very strict and you couldn't see anyone. And I just said, I'm thinking this Friday about 5 p.m, come out. And I expected maybe 1 or 2 people to come, but everyone from the immediate houses all came out and sat on their front nature strip and had picnic rugs in their driveways and had eskies and drinks. And so the first one was really good. And then one of my neighbours posted on the community page and said, this is what happened and this is a street, and people were saying, let us know when the next one is. So then she posted when the next one was, and I did it later in the day because there were still a lot of people working that couldn't make it. And I think over the period I played for about an hour and a half the following week, and in that hour and a half there were probably between 60 and 70 people that came through, and people we live on a quiet street, and people are standing in the middle of the street and standing 1.5 meters apart, but getting their friends who live a couple of streets away to come down and walking their dogs. And it was, I also had my brother and sister had a big notepad and they'd write down the requests, because we just Instagram lived the whole thing, and there were a lot of requests for originals. And when I played them, everyone just shut up, and it was everyone was actually listening, and that was sort of what I needed as a confidence point for myself as well, to realise that people did want to hear what I had to say. But just to have this sort of unity, and everyone was doing the right thing. I was sort of getting a bit anxious, if a cop car came past now, would we get in trouble for organising a gathering? But everyone was doing the right thing and distancing, but everyone got to come together, and I ended up getting notes from the neighbours, and a couple of ladies came up and gave me some money, and then I got wine and gift vouchers, and people were just so appreciative for that gesture of unity at a time when everyone was so separated. So
yeah, I think that's that really point, isn't it, right? Creativity in times of crisis brings people together, brings the best out in people, I guess.
Absolutely.
But you spoke about then that confidence that you've got, and I think one of the things when Jo unlocked Claudia, you spoke about the fact that at 19 you'd enrolled in Claudia's dance lessons, and could you talk about what that did for you in terms of your confidence? And
yeah, I guess at 19 I wasn't too sure of myself, and I'd just gotten back I think from living in Canada, and was back in the burbs, and I just didn't really know where I was at, and I wanted to be a creative person, and didn't see cooking as a creative outlet. And I remember it was at Underbelly on Smith Street at the time, a dance studio, walking up, and everyone was just in these really cool ghetto pants and baggy tops, and then Claudia walked out, and I had never danced before. I knew that I had wanted to, I could feel, I'd done yoga and I wanted to move my body, and then walked in and the music started, and I was like, this is so sick, but didn't know, I was stuck up the back. And then, that was 19, and then I just followed Claudia everywhere from, Southside, Collingwood High School, and then to your home. Yeah. And then would do private classes for years and years.
We should probably play the clip now of sort of the taste and the flavour that Claudia brings to her music and her dance, because it is a real blend, right? Do you want to just give us a little top line of what the blend is?
It's a blend. It comes, I always say now, I think I dance out of injury, you know, and body preservation so that I can dance like this until I'm 90. That's
Right.
how I feel like I teach. But it comes from years when I was really young, in my teens, fortunate enough to dance with Congolese community, guys from the Senegambian community, really like out there, Eugenie Knox dance with your fabric, or Dominic Azule, who did all this incredible arabesque. So many fusions, all to do with the Afro, Caribbean, Latin worlds. But then I feel like with a very centered, let's not injure ourselves mentality.
Right. Let's have a little play of the clip of. Let's show you what Claudia can do when she moves that body. So Claudia, you've set up Booty and the Beats, and I was sort of, in my head, because you've been teaching dance for so long, I thought it had been established for such a long time, but this is quite a new thing, as in a formalised thing.
It's been named.
It's given a name.
You have to choose a domain name at some point.
Yeah. And where did Booty and the Beats come from?
It's from Beauty and the Beast, which I'm a hopeless romantic, and I love that cartoon, and it quite literally is a lot about your booty and a lot about the beats, you know. I think it's also that I've never wanted to define the style that I teach, but it's often those kinds of words are the words that other people say back to me. And so it feels like that's the easiest way to translate what you're going to experience. Yet what I feel like you do is what we do in class is a whole bunch of other things, but that's the easiest way in a marketing sense, that you know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You kind of come out of it feeling healed. And I think it's because of your presence, because you never feel like if you're doing it incorrectly that somebody like that you're going, oh, you know, Jo's not winding properly. You kind of, it's a way to express yourself with someone showing you, you know, this is what maybe you might want to do, but have your own style in it, and then you just come out feeling very empowered. And yeah, for me it was like really healing to, you know, find out who I am and be confident. Like it was a big confidence booster for sure.
And did that go into your work then? Do you feel like that had an impact on how you could step into Movida and say, hey, I want a job? And
yeah, because definitely at the time I really wanted to work at Movida for Frank, and I had sent my resume off a few times, and you know, no one got back to me. And then I walked in there and they're all 6'5" guys, so being, you know, 19 and tiny, just finding body confidence. It sounds silly, but it was like, okay, this is my body, this is how I'm going to move. So, you know, in the kitchen it is a little bit like dancing, and it just gave me the confidence to go, here's my resume, read it, I promise I'll work really hard for you. And then, yeah, got a job, and from that heaps of stuff trickled on to, you know, get me here. But, you know, two people like Frank and Claudia, you know, both got me there.
Amazing. I thought you were going to say you handed over your CV and then did like a little dance. this is my thing. This is my booty. Yes. And then just walk out. I feel like that was
now.
right.
You should do that now.
Yeah. So I would say, you know, like we've got confidence, and on the flip side, I mean, we all have them, but the biggest fears that you face as creators, they pop up daily. I know mine was obviously today going, right, I'm usually behind the camera. There's never like 3 cameras pointing directly at me going, right now, on time, we do this. So my fear was obviously putting myself in front of a camera, and that's not usual for me. So I'm facing my fears as we speak, people. But you know, what are your fears as a creator daily?
What's your fear?
Hey, again, what is my fear? It's not a daily thing, but this relates to what you were talking about when you're defining, you know, where you're at in your career. And I think not daily fear, but definitely there would be fear elements within me never owning any of the multiple disciplines of my artistry that I could never going, I am a film director, I am a dancer, Because if I don't own any of them, it kind of means I don't have to be brilliant at any of them. I can just be a jack of all trades, and you can hide behind that. There's a certain element, and I think that would come from a really deep unconscious fear, you know, where you're like, well, yeah, if now I tell you all that I'm this, I have to be that.
Right, and then you fear fail. Like if it fails,
I don't know that it's failure. It's the then you see me.
Right. Then you're exposed.
Then you're exposed.
Yeah.
Whereas I can juggle all the balls. You're just looking at all the balls.
Yeah. Today you're looking at a dancer and a photographer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a bit of smoke and mirrors going on there.
Yeah.
What would be yours, Bronte? What's your sort of either daily or sort of general fear that you face as a creator?
I think my general fear is feeling like you're constantly on the road less traveled. And it's like when I sit down now, like I'm in my early 20s, and I sit down with like my other friends that aren't musicians and that sort of thing, and they can relate to each other on this. It's almost like a guaranteed success in a way when you can graduate high school, do your degree in whatever profession it is, but then that slides you straight into a job, I guess. And it's sort of feeling in a way that by choosing a more creative route, that it is the road less traveled and you don't have a clear map in front of you. And sometimes I find myself feeling quite overwhelmed by the gradient that I choose to approach that road at, and feeling like I need to slow myself down a little bit to, instead of looking at it as this is where I want to be, just realizing how many steps you have to take before you get there. And I think that's the thing with the creative industry, is realizing that you do have to, everyone's experience is completely different. You can 6 musicians and every single one of them had a really different way that they got to where they got, and I'm sure it's the same with both of you guys as well. Like it's really rare that you run into someone in the creative industry that's gotten there in exactly the same way you have. And I think that sometimes it's not a fear, but it's something that definitely plays on my mind as something that influences my decisions.
Because you almost went down a totally different route with the counsellors from high school kind of pushing you into nutrition, wasn't that? We spoke about that.
I started a nutrition degree because all through high school when you do your course counselling and you have to choose a uni degree, and I was like, I just want to be a singer, and they're like, you can't be a singer because there's no uni degree that gives you that, basically. And fair enough, they're doing their job, but I'm so grateful, like my parents never really pushed me to do that or conform to what I was being told, but as a result of that I did a year of a nutrition degree and was trying to do the creative stuff on the side, but I was trying to just fit that thing because I felt more comfortable with a map in front of me, and it's just having to be more comfortable to just step off that road and knowing that you have to really create that path for yourself. But it's not as daunting when you break it down into small goals and sort of step by step.
Yeah, I think we can all understand breaking it down into smaller chunks of sort of edible pieces instead of looking at the hill that you have to climb. I think that's so. And what about you, Jo? What's your biggest fear?
I guess when you start making a living out of your creativity, it's how people are going to perceive it, and are they going to like what you're doing? Are you going to be able to keep succeeding like that, I guess? Or especially with this, I don't know how it's going to be perceived, and then you start putting money into it, and if you're going to see the return on that. So not to put money on creativity, but if you decide to make a living out of it, that is a bit scary, that you're then responsible for that. Your creativity is now what is providing for you, and then if that isn't, then what are you going to do?
I feel like when you say the money word, it's like we kind of go money. It's the dirty word in creativity, but it needs to be spoken about, right? We need to, if you want to do your passion as a job, you need to find a means to make a return.
I think it's a reality of if you want to do creative work, and you want to do what you want to do on an ongoing basis, is like you've got to have to make it into a business at some point. Maybe come from wealth or something that you don't have to. But for me, I want to keep cooking and I want to do things that I want to do. So we were talking about it before. It's kind of, do you bend to your audience and what they will, what will work, or do you just keep doing what you want to do and you're creative? So it's trying to find a balance between not compromising in what you believe in, but being realistic to go, okay, I'm going to make some money or a business out of this.
Yeah, I think in the film industry, you know, the big actors and actresses sort of like do one for the audience that, you know, keeps them in the zeitgeist, and then one for them, the passion project, the soul project that can go, you know, to a smaller audience if it need be, but they kind of juggle that, you know, that balance. I've totally lost my train of thought. I'm just totally lost in this conversation.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I always thought I could keep doing creative stuff if you keep doing what I want to do, if I want to keep putting money into it, because you can spend all day singing on your doorstep and it's very fulfilling. But then if you want to afford that house or you rent and whatever, it's like, okay, well, I have to get people to pay for it. So it's just the compromise. I guess it's a bit of a scary thing of like, what do you give up for your creativity? Yeah.
And I think, you know, one of the things we've spoken about is those maps that you can create, you know, the steps that you can take. And one of those that we've spoken about amongst us is mentors. And you've got an amazing mentor at the moment. Bronte, do you want to speak to those helping you break down that step so you can maybe make a career of this?
Yeah. So I'm just starting the process of doing mentoring with Kate Sobrano and a team of her musicians and that sort of stuff that basically are helping me to structure a plan. And I think similarly to what you were saying, that there is a time where your creativity has to have a business plan, and that's sort of the crappy bit, but it's the financial outlay and then the business plan to actually put it into action, because otherwise it's that dreamer thing that will continue and carry on without you taking the financial or the fundamental steps that you have to take to try and actually turn that into something that you can live off or you can live by as well. So having that mentorship from somebody who has been in the industry and has the experience as well is sort of an invaluable, because nobody can tell you the right and wrong if they haven't lived it. And
No.
I think as well, I've studied a Bachelor of Music that I'm wrapping up this year, but the mentors that you meet through that as well, and you get industry, the best thing you can do is just talk to people that have worked in the industry, and everyone's got different stories, and you can just learn from their lessons. Then you've got to make your own mistakes and learn from them as well. But yeah, it's really...
I think the mentorship's a really important one. And I think it is that funny thing of, I get asked a lot with The Unlocked when I started it, you know, because I started it to sort of practice my writing, because I'm writing a sitcom, which is being co-produced with BBC Studios. And that idea sort of invaded me, and I sort of went, oh, well, I'm obviously trying to write now. And I thought, well, I need to practice that art, you know, so it's that practice. And then Katie Graham actually pushed me to do the first live event where we had Frank and Katie, and we talked and had this beautiful audience, and it felt really great to share those insights with a live audience. And then when COVID hit and we couldn't have a live audience, it was like, okay, we'll do a live streaming show. And I was like, oh my God, I've never done that. You know, and then when you get asked, well, how are you going to monetize it? I find sometimes that can block you.
Yeah.
How do you, you know, for me, I kind of had this, we stood on the doorstep outside before and sort of went, we could do these amazing events where we bring creators, get groups of wonderful, talented trios like yourselves to a sort of weekend that isn't a conference, but it's a sort of creator hub. And people can pay who aren't in the creative field to maybe just immerse themselves in that world, or come in with an idea that they want to kind of move to the next process. And so I think even just through talking with Claudia the other night on the doorstep, you know, we were sort of processing it. And I think when you bounce off creators, you suddenly might have an idea. What was the moment with Have a Go where you sort of went, it just started to unfold and you went, oh, I'm just going to do this? Because it wasn't the cookbook, it was this recipe. Where was that moment?
Well, I guess the cookbook originally, I had a pretty clear vision that I wanted it to be very, like the photography to be beautiful. And that's why, you know, working with Yana, that's why we wanted to do that. And then when she said, let's do a magazine, we were like, yeah, we'll just do a food, like lots of food photos. And then I was like, let's just chuck a recipe in there. And then a week later, it was shot. So it was, just that flow of, it just kind of worked, and it was talking to another person who you admire and respect their work. I think that's really important, is to kind of do that stuff.
I think it's one of the biggest things as a producer, I think is collaboration, right? Is the key, because if you get the right collaboration, it's amazing.
It's
the wrong one,
easy.
the
wrong one can teach you a lot, though. As well.
Absolutely. And what's your wrongest collaboration that's taught you the most, Claudia?
I can't name one, but
you don't have to call them out. I just mean like.
No, I think a lot of what I do involves having difficult conversations. So, and collaboration. In fact, all my work involves collaboration. The dancing, although in some way I feel like I'm collaborating with those that are coming to the class. So, none of them have been my greatest, but it's a full valid part of the work and the workflow, and I don't think I would take that away. It's intrinsic to kind of producing great work, having the difficult conversations.
And so with we've talked about dance unlocking kind of confidence and sort of self-awareness and how you hold yourself. What other life hacks or daily things that can creators do to get in flow, like from a musical point of view, or just to get in that creative field? What comes up for you, Jo?
I definitely feed off people's energy. So being around happy, creative people and talking. I don't know if it's a little bit of like competitive. Like I'm pretty competitive, love that. Not directly with people, but it's like, oh, you're doing something really cool. Like, oh, I want to do something really cool. So I think it's more, I love feeding off people's inspiration. So I try and, stay in contact with lots of people and talk about my ideas a lot, pretty open with that kind of information, and it helps because you learn something from everybody. So I kind of try and do that.
And what about you? We're talking about movement and how you get into.
I mean, I guess I'm lucky because at the moment my work goes in tandem. It's visual and then it's fully embodied movement. So when I need to drop one, I pick up the other, and they kind of feed each other. One is the mind and the other is the body. So, that's the solace, going back to the body for me.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have been able to make any of the work I've done had I not been able to dance in between.
Right.
That's amazing. A lot of it's dancing or crying. They both involve the body.
Yeah. It's an emotional outlet and letting go of things
and centering.
Yeah.
I think mine is similar to yours, and trying to be really involved with people, but then also allowing space. I find I can be most creative if I'm feeling down. I'm the same. I get my energy off other people, and you go and spend some time with some really great people that get your cogs turning and everything else, but then being able to step back from that, and I find the creativity happens once you've actually, when you're on your own and you settle after that sort of energy spike that you get with other people, and whether that's sitting down and singing or just going for a walk or whatever else, that's when I find I get the most ideas and concepts. Like it'll be the shower or the time when you're completely on your own, but you're feeling good enough that you're in that headspace.
Yeah. So taking that time to reflect and let those ideas come through. Great. And I would love to ask you, what would be the piece of advice that you would give to your younger self, something you know now that you wish you'd known at the beginning of your journey?
I don't think it's something that I didn't know, because I really value older people, especially with stories and wisdom. Like I'm a really big believer in your elders. I think it's, put emphasis on that you can learn something from everybody, no matter if, they're helping you out, just anyone does. I think that's a really big thing that I would just reinstall in my younger me.
How small am I? Are we talking to? I might have learnt about, I don't know, because I look at the journey I've been on and it's so self-made, it made me. So I don't know that I would go back and speak to her and tell her anything, because
you wouldn't be where you are now if you hadn't just done everything.
And I get reminded of that often by my mother, I think it's interesting that I have fallen into, and I was saying this to you, a role of, where I am the leader and the caregiver or the caretaker of the situation. And I was looking at that recently, thinking that I think from a child was a lot about, or from, you know, doing it very young, was so that I was creating a safe space that I was in control of, or
Right.
just a space and a situation that I was in control of, so then I could like curate the experience. So I knew that it was going to be a good time.
So crazy, yeah.
So that and so things that happened to me when I was young, was quite young, and a child growing up through primary school, that it wasn't always a nice experience. So I think it's interesting that my journey has gone to that. So gone into a space where now I am like the boss, so that I know we're going to have a great time in life.
Yeah,
You
so
know?
it's control and having that ability to
which
manage.
maybe the only thing I can take from that is that if I'd become aware of that lack of safety or needing other people to help me create that, I would have developed dialogue younger to go, oh, this is why I'm stepping into control.
Right.
I know I can do it. It's second, I'm like, I naturally, obviously, I can lead, and you all come along for the journey with me. But it's then the not being able to, you don't learn about delegation, and you don't learn about communicating, kind of to get real help. It's interesting.
I think when you get older, you get that more self-aware of what you're doing and conscious of what you're doing, right? So you start to learn from those things. What about you, Bronte? What would be your advice to your younger self?
I wish I knew earlier how different people are, because I always thought that I was weird and everyone else was normal. And I was always really frustrated that I couldn't go into one of those stupid shops and buy a number plate for my bike that had my name on it, because my name was unusual. I just wanted a normal name, and I wanted to be, I was tall and I was different to everyone else, but I kind of just had in my head that I was different and everyone else was the same. And I really just wish that I learned a lot younger just how different people are, and because I feel like you don't properly realize that until you're sort of later in your teens or even into early adulthood, and that it's okay not to have the same ambitions and goals as other people, and you can just sort of be yourself, and that is going to be really different.
And so we talked about growth, and you know, I think it challenges a lot of us to push ourselves to the next phase. And I loved your analogy, Bronte, about, could you give us that one that we talked about, the pot plant analogy?
I was away on a music trip, and a friend of mine said to me, you know, it's sort of like, you know, a plant, and a plant will stop growing. And then I really thought about that and realized that so many situations in life, you continue to grow, and then like a plant, you get to a certain point, and if your surroundings aren't big enough to allow you to continue to grow, then if that were a plant, you would repot that plant. And how I've now sort of learnt to apply that to my life, that if I feel like I've reached the capacity that I can reach in my current physical, social, whatever environment that I'm in, that it's time to change up those things, because to be uncomfortable and give yourself the space to grow is when you're going to continue to flourish and sort of become a bigger, better person. But if you keep yourself in the same confines and expectations and everything, you'll just stay as big as you are.
We've talked about this as well, Claudia, haven't we? Being comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think a lot of, a majority of my experiences haven't been all that comfortable. But again, I feel like that's part of the process. So it's been normalized for me. It's funny you think of plants. My plant analogy in growth is about cutting them back. which maybe we just need to repot the plant to like the bigger pot so it can grow next season, but we need to prune it as well.
Because when we were talking about what next, and I know it's all quite confidential at the moment about what's next, I can mention though that there's the international element. And to take that next leap, to take that step, you kind of know, you know, like I'll drop a name in just to show you how big it could go, is Lady Gaga world, you know, because your music videos are huge here. You know, if you take it to that next step, is there fear in that growth for you?
Oh, it goes to what I was talking about before. Then, you know, it's the same way. If you'd asked me 2 years ago, you know, what do you do? I might say artist. I probably still say it now anyway. But I've been written into the media, you know, because of things as a film director. You know, that's my title now. But yet I still, not so much now, in fact not at all right now, but I shied away from that for the first year of being written in every publication, and even being on the front cover of a magazine, I was like, oh, I'm not really sure if I want to be film director, because then I really have to be that. And I think the element of, I mean, going international doesn't, I don't have fear around that, because it's like just ordering the bigger meal.
Supersizing it.
That's how I view particularly America. I just think you're just giving it the steroids, you know. But yeah, there's a level where you have to become that thing. But then what I have found each time you level up is it's just a whole lot more smoke and mirrors anyway.
Yeah.
So that's the funny part, and I always speak to, I do a lot of mentoring, and all my mentees, you know, this aspiration that they have so many aspirations, and I love them for it. I never had them, but I'm always trying to be like, don't even worry, because once you get there, it's even worse. It's even more smoke and mirrors than you ever dreamed of, you know.
Well, I was going to say accolades probably speak to that. You know, we've set goals and accolades, and you know, we all have those moments. And I think, Jo, what I loved is hearing about. I loved experiencing the fact that there was a world championship of pastry, chocolate and gelato. I mean, the fact that that even exists, and it is in Milan. I mean, I think that's phenomenal. B, that you got asked to represent Australia, and we've probably got an image now that we can show of what Jo created for the Australian champion team. Here's our emu. This is going to show you the artistry that we talk of. This is made purely of pastry. No, sugar. Yeah. Icing sugar. You could do the pastry next.
Yeah.
But this is the emu that you created, and what I loved is hearing about this pressure cooker of this award. Could you tell us the story that occurred?
Sure.
Yeah, going to Jo now.
With that emu, you can see behind there's a bit of a booth. And so the World Championship of Pastries held over 2 days, and it's over 20 countries representing their country, 20 teams, and we're in little booths. And on the first day, you make your sugar sculpture. So that had travelled in pieces from Australia, which I was very nervous about. Got there, and then our team, we had a chocolate sculpture, hot sugar and pastelage, which is what I was doing. Put it all together, and it took 7.5 hours, and then the final saga is picking it up, walking down a hallway, down another hallway, and then placing it onto a table. And you got time restraints, so I picked up my emu, and my team was still kind of going hard at putting their sculptures together. And I walked past all the officials, so there's 20 judges out the front, officials everywhere, so nobody cheats. And I was walking my emu like this, down the hallway, down the second hallway, and then bust through the curtains into the arena. And then in the arena it was dead quiet. So I was the first one out of all the teams to take my centerpiece out. And then I was like, put it down on the table, and then everyone went, woo! So like erupted with cheering, and I was yeah. And then thought, oh, I've got to get the girls, like we've got to get the rest of our stuff out. And I just had a momentary lapse as I walked back through the corridor, and one of the judges went, congratulations, and I went, thanks, and whacked him on the arse. And then I was like, oh shit. And they all looked at me and started laughing, and I was like, I just hit a judge on the arm.
You're going to start a whole new movement of Me Too in the male judge category.
In the kitchen, you know, you rev each other up.
That's so funny. Do you I actually asked you, do you think that helped you win the gold medal?
I don't think so.
Well, look, I think moving on to winners, we ran a little competition with Claudia and Booty and the Beats. And we asked people to follow you and follow myself, and made it all up because I'd never done a competition on Instagram before. And we have a winner. We have Kinga Pap from London, who posted, which I was going to try and show you, a video of her dancing, which is phenomenal, and I will post it on our blog if you kind of look. She did it. But Kinga will tune in to one of your online dance classes, which is what's amazing about online now, right? Is she can tune in to yours, and we can tell her. So when do you do your dance classes? It's 3 times a week.
At the moment, 3 times a week. It's Monday nights, Thursday nights, and Wednesday mornings.
Great.
But it's been incredible, and it's meant I could be dancing with people from Thailand, New Zealand, London, all over Australia, Darwin, Alice Springs, everywhere. And they're all like So you're not going to stop this when, you know, you're allowed to go back in the studio, and I won't, because it's incredible for so many women to get to dance in their lounge rooms.
That's so good. And do you zoom
With
in?
me.
Is that what happens? People will zoom into you, or do you have a portal that you use?
It's Zoom, yeah, and everyone has me big on any device. Last week I learnt that I'm projected on some people's televisions, which I think is hilarious. And then I just feel like an Energizer bunny who doesn't stop for a whole hour talking or moving.
That's so good.
It's actually the most fit I think I've been from my own classes ever.
Wow.
Being online, I'm not exactly sure why.
Wow. Well, if you want to tune in, you can look up Booty and the Beats _dance. So you can look it up on Instagram. We've tagged them. You can join in with Claudia's dance classes. So there's one last thing I'd like to do for you before we go back to a beautiful song from Bronte to wrap up our show. I love to find creators and I love people unlocking creators that I wouldn't find. You ladies, Claudia and Bronte, are going to unlock someone for me. We're going to release that on the blog, so we're not going to tell people now, so they tune in, subscribe, follow us on the blog. But what I wanted to do is choose a creator that I've been looking at, and she's called Chloe Marshall Roth, and she does a thing called Prints by Chloe. We can show some of those prints now, but what I loved is I saw these prints. She started at Christmas. She did it as a gift for her family. She takes photographs. You can throw a photograph over and she traces it and she sort of brings it to life. And she realized by doing it she's really bad at eyes and nose, so she leaves them off. But what she loves is color, so she does color matching and pop. So if we can show those pictures, I love the fact that there's these beautiful images that kind of come to life through color. And she just loves that world. And this photo is Sean and Annabelle, who's her sister, and they've used it as their save the date. Anyway, her boss decided it was so amazing that she had to set up an Instagram, and now she's being requested all these prints. And I've done some for my best friends and my beautiful boyfriend for his birthday. And we would love to gift all of you one. So you're going to send us a photo. We're going to do you a beautiful print by Chloe, and we're going to put it up on the blog because Mauro Palmieri at the moment, my beautiful photographer, is in the process of having a baby, not himself, his beautiful wife Emma, as we speak this evening. Wow. So normally we would gift you with a beautiful portrait, but because he'll be otherwise engaged raising a child at the very early stages of life, the true creator moment, we're going to put those images up as your creator image for the period that we can. And then you get to keep those and have those framed. So that's a gift from me to you for thank you for coming and being part of the Unlocked. And to finish the night, we are going to end on a song that Bronte's going to release, I believe, as a single sometime soon. I'm saying it out loud so that there's that step. So if you'd love to take us away for the end of the show. But as you're getting ready, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody. I hope you've been inspired by the insights of these amazing creators. I certainly have been. And I think it just hopefully allows you to realize that whatever world you're from, whatever industry, even if you're doing it as a hobby, that just giving it a go, have a go, is the moral of the story here. And tune in to what goes on with that magazine, get your booty and your beats going to unlock that creativity and just keep on creating. So take it away, Bronte. Thank you for joining us. And thank you to all the crew who made it possible. Thank you so much.
Sleep deprived, but this is something good I've realized. 'Cause sleeping is just time that I'm not spending here with you. So I'd rather stay awake and fight my eyes. I'm dream inspired, but when I hack my dreams beside me galvanized. But until you, I was broken through and through. So I'd rather stay awake and fight my eyes. You're the perfectly imperfect sort of broken that I need, and somehow all that messed up cracks align. But the feeling of you next to me is parallel to ecstasy, and I can't come down. Really need to sleep, but you keep playing with my feet, and baby, I don't know how. Before you I was blue, but now I'm lying here It all seems so clear. I'd rather stay awake and fight my eyes. Bye bye bye. Die 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 die. I'm so surprised. You really couldn't be much further from my type. But until you, I was broken through and through. So I'd rather stay awake and fight my eyes. You're the perfectly imperfect sort of broken that I need. And somehow all that messed up cracks align. But the feeling of you next to me is parallel to ecstasy, and I can't come down. Really need to sleep, but you keep playing with my feet, and baby, I don't know how. Before you I was blue, but now I'm lying here with you. It all seems so clear. I'd rather stay awake and fight my eyes. I'd rather stay awake and fight my eyes. I'd rather stay awake and fight my eyes.
Thank you. And that's us, and we're out. Thank you everyone for joining us. Tune in next time, whenever that is, wherever I am. I'm on this camera. And off we go.